All right, folks, black mayors all across the country, they are sick and tired of Confederate monuments. And the mayor of Enfield, North Carolina, took down one of those monuments. Mondale Robinson said enough is enough. He replaced a white Republican mayor in that particular town in North Carolina. The decision to topple the 94-year-old monument on Sunday night was based on the best interest of the nearly 2,400 people who live in the city, 85% of them black. This is what happened.
Yo, it's time for this monument to come down. People voted. I tried with a hammer. That wasn't enough. So now here come the tractors. Drive it down. Yes, sirs. Yes, sirs. Yes, sirs. Death to the Confederacy around here. Push that little one over too, bro. All of it. Not in my town, not on my watch. Not in my town, not on my watch. Not in my town, not on my watch.
All right, folks, as a result of that, white racists were not happy. They began to post these notes all around town. Not happy at all. It says, white people of Enfield, you have let a nigger, their word, tyrant, stomp on your white heritage. What will you do? Don't let them get away with anything. Loyal White Knights, the 24/7 phone number as well. Listen to their podcast and their phone number for them to call in. Joining us now is the mayor of Enfield, North Carolina, Mondale Robinson. Glad to have you back on the show, Mondale. So folks have not been, the white folks, they have not been happy with you. Look, the same thing happened in Birmingham. Randall Woodfin took a monument down there. You had Stephen Reed in Montgomery, Alabama, did the exact same thing. And so, I mean, look, you have these places, these majority black cities where they have been forced to keep these monuments up by Republican legislatures.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Ro. I hope you had a good vacation, brother. Here's the problem for me. This monument has stood since 1928 in that park, and in my entire life, and I'm only 43 years old, that park was called the White Folk Park. It wasn't until recently till it got a name, Randolph Park. Everybody in Enfield know that park as the White Folk Park because black people first were not allowed there. When they were, that monument was a water fountain was added on that monument that said white folk only. Later in the years after it was placed there, they etched on the back some ode to other wars. But the main purpose of that Confederate monument, my man, was to remind black people that the Confederacy was still alive. And this is some of the sentiments we've received, not just that leaflet that you saw from the Klan, but some of the emails I've been receiving from white residents and also white people all over this country about the invisible empire and how black people need to understand that the Confederacy has never died and will never die. And I mean, you know, for me, it was a no-brainer. My dad suffers because he was the son of a sharecropper. My grandfather died not even being able to walk. My mother has memories of being sprayed with water hose. And I, deal with PTSD that's definitely associated with the epigenetics. And that PTSD was every time I saw that Confederate monument on the front of that statue, I felt some type of way. This park is less than a block away from my house. And it had to go. So, you know, I'm not going to sit around and talk about it. I'm just going to do it. And whatever the legislature want to do, whatever the SBI want to do, we can deal with that when it's time to deal with that.
Now, is there a state law in North Carolina that prohibits Confederate monuments from being taken down or removed without approval from them?
So this is the tricky part. There is a statute that was passed 2015 and modified in 2017 in North Carolina that says you cannot you can't permanently move or remove statues that are odes to veterans or that are murals to veterans. But that's if the state own it. There are some exceptions if it's personally owned by a private group like the Daughters of Confederacy or if it's property of a town or a city that state does not want you moving those monuments, but my board voted 4-1 to remove it. So I did that, knowing that we had exceptions. There are exceptions for moving monuments if it poses a public safety or a risk to the public health. And I feel like Black children seeing this monument in the front of swing sets at a park is definitely a threat to their personhood. And I felt that's enough grounds to take it down the way I took it down.
And so with this, with that particular statute, in the case of Alabama, there's a fine. There were people who stepped up, paid the fine in Birmingham, paid the fine in Montgomery, and they moved on. What are the repercussions you might face in North Carolina?
So here's the tricky part. The SBI is doing the investigation, but when they interviewed me, they told me they were doing the investigation on behalf of Halifax County, the county where Enfield is. The problem with that is there's no client. I mean, there's no plaintiff in this case because the SBI was talking to me about destruction of property, personal property. Well, my town owns that property, so I don't know what destruction they're talking about. Because Enfield is not going to press charges against me. The call to the SBI was actually done by Enfield's police chief because he felt like he didn't like the way I took it down. But he's not a voting member of our board. Our board had already decided that it was going to go. And I told the board to save the town money, I'll take it down myself. And I did just that. So whatever the repercussions is, if it's a fine, if it's a charge, we're going to carry on doing what we do, Roland. You know that.
Totally understand. Mondo Robinson, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Indeed.
All right, I'm going to bring in my panel right now. Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for environmental justice at the EPA. Teresa Lundy, principal founder, TML Communications. Demario Solomon Simmons, civil rights attorney, founder, Justice for Greenwood, will be joining us a little later in the show. Look, here's the whole deal here, Teresa. You've got these Republicans who are defenders of the Confederacy. They do not like when Black folks exert their power. They want to control these cities. Now, Republicans love talking about local control, except when Black people are in charge.
You're absolutely right. But even the basis of what the Confederacy stood for was about controlling slavery, controlling the rule of law of which Black people were enlisted in. And so, as we think about what the Civil War looked like and, what they were fighting for, part of it was the moral sense of slavery. And so now it's modern day slavery in the midst of having these elected officials still trying to control African Americans, our funding. They come with different laws and, also just try to matriculate different things that really don't have a hold on some of our communities. So it's definitely important that we start to understand and what it looks like, and also the senders of these messages who say they fight against slavery, but yet we keep seeing time and time again when their claws actually hang out for them.
And the thing here, Mustafa, it is simple. These Republicans do not want Black folks determining their own fate. They want to force Black residents and Black elected officials to have to keep these Confederate monuments. They want to keep the Confederacy alive, and that is today's Republican Party in Mississippi, in Alabama, in South Carolina, in Georgia, in Arkansas. We could go on and on and on. It is in the South.
Yeah, my grandmother says you have power unless you give it away. So we're utilizing our power. We're utilizing our power to make sure that monuments of hate no longer have fertile ground in the 21st century. And we also understand that these monuments of hate also have traumatic impacts in and on our lives. And we are no longer going to carry that trauma by allowing these types of things to be placed and to be viewed inside of our communities. So I'm very, very happy that the mayor moved forward in the way that he did and the decisiveness of the way that he did. And I hope that all of us will also back him up. If there's a fine, we should make sure that the money is raised in a matter of minutes to make sure that that's taken care of.
I just get a kick out of the folks, again, who do all they can to defend this nonsense.
Can you believe the nerve of these Republicans? They only want to block progress for our community. They talk about cutting Medicare and Social Security. They played politics with veterans' health care. They voted against the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act and funding for our HBCUs, and against lowering prescription drug costs for our seniors. These Republicans keep trying hard to stand in the way, but President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Democrats won't let them. They are delivering for us. The Democratic National Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. All right, y'all. So over the weekend, some all kind of drama took place with the Florida A&M football team. 26 players were ruled ineligible to play against the North Carolina Tar Heels. They had so few offensive linemen that the coach literally considered canceling the game. That would have been detrimental because this was a $450,000 payday to Florida A&M. Now, y'all know HBCUs, they ain't getting no $450,000 games every single week. And so this absolutely mattered. They chose to actually play the game. They were competitive for about a half with Florida A&M, with North Carolina, ended up losing to them, giving up 56 points. Now, the president of Florida A&M University, Larry Robinson, released a letter, and this is what he released, okay, in response to all of this drama regarding these ineligible players. Pull it up, please. This is the letter that he released. Put it up in my monitor here. And so what he said in his letter, this was released publicly, okay, about Florida A&M. He said, and first of all, y'all, why are we using this? This should be in our graphics form. This is simply too small. You can't read this, okay? So we shouldn't be showing this here, okay? Greetings from North Carolina, where our Rattler football team and coaches are getting ready to face off against the North Carolina Tar Heels at 8 p.m. tonight. I'm incredibly proud of our coaches, staff, volunteers, alumni, and friends who are here to support the courageous young men on our team who will compete to the best of their abilities in this contest. The Marching 100 band is also here and will mesmerize the crowd in their typical fashion. I must commend our Rattler football team members for expressing their concerns about matters that my administrative team and support staff will handle more effectively. We have a responsibility to work together with our student athletes, coaches, and staff to provide academic, health, safety, and other services needed for student success at Florida A&M University. We have a shared commitment to a culture of accountability and compliance, and as senior administrators and staff, we must lead the way. I often brag about our students and their willingness over the years to engage in important matters of the public's good and of significance to their well-being. I'm incredibly proud that these young men stepped up in the face of current challenges and expressed their concerns in that revered Rattler tradition. The issues raised by these young men will get our full time and attention and will be prioritized by our recently established athletic support committee, which includes administrators and staff from throughout the university community. These matters will be a standing agenda item at my weekly senior leadership team meetings. We will see progress. And as for today, our team is here. Our coaches and staff are here. We will compete and do our best to win. Once again, I am thankful for all of the coaches, staff, and student athletes who played a role in making this happen. Okay. Let me go ahead and just say this right now. And again, y'all, I've spoken on the Florida A&M campus. Y'all know how I feel about the importance of HBCUs. I know many Florida A&M graduates, my frat brother Will Packer, Rob Hardy. I know Cheryl Smith. I know Kim Godwin. I mean, all kind of people. Myra Lowe is down there. She's the head of the School of Communications. I was just with her when Ben Crump gave them a $50,000 check for the School of Journalism. But I ain't got no choice but to say this. President Robinson, that is a bullshit ass statement. That was put the statement back in my mind. That was a trash ass statement from the president of Florida A&M University. First of all, in the letter, he says, our recently established athletic support committee, which includes administrators and staff. You fired the damn you fired the athletic director. If you have a real AD, you don't need no damn athletic support committee. That's the point of a damn athletic director. The point of an athletic director and athletic department is to actually do what the hell you're supposed to do and have your university in compliance. How the hell you go to the first game and you don't know who's eligible? This is real basic. This is some basic ass administrative duties. And then to say, these matters will be a standing agenda item at my weekly senior leadership team. You just found out 2 days before a game, you find out that 26 players not eligible. Guys who transferred in from other places. You don't know they're eligible? What the hell were y'all doing at Florida A&M? We ain't talking a small private NAIA HBCU. We're talking about a member of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, a school that's one of the top football programs, and y'all just figured this out? Y'all might say, oh, Roland, don't be dogging Florida A&M. Okay, show the letter the players dropped today. This came from the Florida A&M football team. Come on, pull it up. Let's go. Well, y'all moving too damn slow. You should have had it ready. Let's go. Come on, pull the letter up. Y'all, the Florida A&M football team, y'all gonna make me pull it up. See, y'all should have had the damn letter ready. The Florida A&M football team dropped their own letter in response to what the hell the president had to say. And in their particular letter, they like, yeah, we got some concerns here, Mr. President. We got some concerns with what y'all doing and how y'all operating. Let me see if I can pull it up right here. It's dumb. And I don't care. The president can be pissed off at me all he wants to. Fine. Call me. I'll be happy to take your phone call. But this don't make any sense what's going down at Florida A&M. So y'all got a letter? Okay, well, come on. This don't make no sense. Y'all could have had the letter and put it up on the screen. All right. Okay, so let me go ahead and read this letter. Okay, let me do this here. Let me do screen sharing so y'all can see it. Okay, so let me sit here and do this here. All right, here we go. So this is the letter from the team. All right. They say our campus partners put on my honor. Also share responsibility in this fiasco. During the admissions process, several of us had to submit academic transcripts, letters of recommendations, and immunization records multiple times because prior submissions were either misplaced or never forwarded to the proper department. Stop. How in the hell football players got to submit multiple documents because you got folks who don't know how to sit here and actually get it right? Again, this is what happens when you fire the AD. This is what happens when you have a department that is simply, y'all should have the graphic up on y'all end. Come on. All right. This is what happens when you fired the AD and you ain't got no control in your doggone department. This makes no sense to me, y'all. I don't understand what the problem is with, I don't understand what's going on with Florida A&M, where you literally have no institutional control and you have no idea what is happening with your own department. Okay, let me zoom in further, pull it back up. Here we go. Currently, we have multiple players, put in my monitor. We have multiple players that are being deemed unable to participate in competition because simple tasks such as changing of majors, conferring of degrees, and the submission of grades have not been completed promptly. That's your administrator's fault, President Robinson. One such player submitted a change of major form on August 10th, and it is yet to be completed by his advisor or department. Is this the fulfillment of our university motto, excellence with caring? Now, y'all spend a lot of time going after that girl who took some butt-naked photos on one of your campus monuments, but you damn sure didn't have this together. Yeah, right. I'm doing damn roll call because this is embarrassing as hell to Florida A&M family. Summer school. Dr. Robinson, because of our athletic obligations in the fall and spring semesters, summer school is vital to the academic success of our team. It is imperative that our scholarships cover at least part-time enrollment for the summer term. Additionally, football games are not won during football season. They are won in the grueling workouts and team activities during winter, spring, and summer months. In the summer of 2021, we were provided tuition of up to 6 credit hours plus room and board. We were able to transform our bodies and develop into a championship caliber team. This summer, your administration, y'all, they're talking to the president of Florida A&M. This summer, your administration decided not to provide housing or meals for us during summer school. Now, how in the hell you got a football team and they ain't got no damn meals and nowhere to live? This decision has had detrimental effects on our preparation for the 2022 season. Many of us were not able to maintain or increase body weights because of a lack of nutrition. Y'all, we talking football. Your ass gotta maintain strict. Most of us found minimum wage employment, but because of educational and athletic obligations, we were unable to work enough hours to fully provide for our needs. Do you think the same conditions are placed on the players at the University of North Carolina or Jackson State? You claim to support us, but I'm gonna pull it up. Pull up the next page, y'all. You claim to support us. If I can pull it, there we go. Here we go. You claim to support us. Support is much more than cheering for us during games or offering a few kind words after a big victory. That press release you sent out, President Robinson, that's what they're talking about. We are in the midst of the search for the next athletic director at FAMU. It was very disheartening that there is no student-athlete representation on the 18-member search committee, nor were there any discussions held with us regarding the characteristics or qualifications of our next leader. Oh, by the way, when they fired the AD, he got a job that quick as the number 2 at Tulane University. In contrast, every elected Student Government Association president is seated on the university's board of trustees. It is important that students' voices are considered in shaping the future of this institution. Concerning the next athletic director, it is our belief that the individual selected should have extensive administrative experience from successful NCAA member institutions and efficient organizational structure model to address current existing personnel deficits and a proven track record of successful fundraising. The same athletic department that had, if I'm correct, and Scotty, you correct me if I'm wrong, he's going to be next, that had what, 6 in 10 years? 6 ADs in 10 years? Yeah, we're going to discuss that next. The idea of placing a person in the position because ties to FAMU is not appealing to us at all. We need fresh ideas and innovation to achieve the level of excellence that FAMU athletics is capable of. Underappreciation. Dr. Robinson, the NCAA allows players to receive 4 tickets for all games in which we participate. That has been the standard since we arrived at FAMU. Last week, we were informed that the current athletic administration had reduced the number of tickets that we will receive from 4 to 2. So your ass can't feed them. You can't house them. Now you're reducing tickets. This decision left our family and friends who had already made arrangements to travel to Chapel Hill scrambling to purchase expensive tickets to see us play. That's how you treat your football players, President Robinson? Our family and support systems should not be burdened in this manner. The vast majority of them incur hotel and travel expenses, and the facilitation of game tickets should require minimal effort from our athletic administration. Is that the last part of that statement? Bring up our script, Scotty. Y'all, he's a contributor to the Black Star Network. The SWAC been tripping with his YouTube channel. And so they've been blocking him for stupid, petty-ass reasons. And so luckily, he's about to get his YouTube channel back. And SWAC, y'all keep playing games with Scotty. Don't worry about it. I hit some higher-ups at YouTube because y'all tripping. Oh, yeah, don't think I ain't going to call somebody at the top of the food chain. Y'all keep playing with the brothers because y'all don't like his criticism. Scott, this is stupid right here. And that was a bullshit statement by the president. Yeah, and the president of FAMU may not invite me to the campus, may not come on the show, but somebody got to say it. And the players were nice. They basically said the president is full of crap.
Absolutely. And see, you missed the last section. I think the last section is the best section. I got it on my computer.
I'm going to find it. Go ahead.
It says, on Friday, after much dialogue with our team, we decided to play at UNC. We determined that we would not play for this institution, but for our families, teammates, and classmates, our rabid fan base, and our coaches who have prepared us and love us. We played our guts out, and in the process, 2 of our teammates suffered season-ending injuries. After the game, we decided to protest the Marching 100's playing of the Florida song in the FAMU alma mater by kneeling during both songs. We will continue to do so until significant changes that facilitate a positive student-athlete experience are made. We will not sing a song that begins College of Love and Charity when we feel neither from this university. Dr. Robinson, this letter is not a personal attack, but a demand for positive change and a culture shift in the current direction of FAMU athletics. We came to FAMU to better our lives, and we are expressing concerns about impediments to the goal. We are not interested in the further empty dialogue with you and your staff. We want changes made now. We have given our bodies and shed blood, sweat, and tears on behalf of the institution. It's time for FAMU to reciprocate the love.
No, this is what happens when you run off an athletic director who balanced your books, was making improvements, and you fire him for some silly-ass reason that we all know is BS, and they've yet to explain to the public, and now you running around. That's like trying to sit here and we're going to do Roland Show and run Roland Network without Roland. But he control the money. He control everything. But we're going to do this without him. No, you can't do that. And for the president to act like, oh, my God, I just found out what's going on. This is an abdication of leadership.
And it gets worse than that, Ro, because I don't even know if you've seen the updates that's been coming along. So some of the FAMU players have actually gone and got a lawyer, and the lawyer went out and put it on Twitter. The lawyer's name is Tom Mars at Tom Mars Law. He says, 2 FAMU players retained me yesterday to help FAMU seek a reconsideration for the NCAA regarding their eligibility. FAMU has ignored multiple requests from us to see the paperwork that FAMU sent to the NCAA on their behalf. In contrast, Coach Simmons has been very supportive. So now you're also fighting the kids doing their due diligence to make sure that you did the paperwork right so they can come back and play because they've already missed games. And now you have some players who missed 4 games. You have some players who are out for the season. And everybody's trying to rush to get their paperwork together for the Orange Blossom Classic this Sunday.
And to your point, this Tom Mars, what he laid out was he said that he was indeed hired. He said, look at this, y'all. Look at this here. He said, incredible mismanagement by FAMU. Most, if not all, of these players followed the direction of their advisor to the letter. If the NCAA needs a pound of flesh, they should take it from FAMU and let these guys play. And you have leadership who's acting like, and then praising them. Oh, the band's here. We ready to play. Oh, my goodness. We all ready. Hey, dog, This was no time for some cute-ass little statement.
Absolutely. And what makes it even worse and what people have to really realize is the kids actually did it for the school, because even though they say the fans, if you break a buyout, if you break a contract where a school is supposed to pay you $450,000 on the day of the game, I believe the return penalty was that FAMU would have had to pay North Carolina $500,000 just for them missing that game. So in return, they saved FAMU a big check that they could not cash if they didn't play the game.
And here's the deal. Those players did not have to play that game. They could have said, we ain't playing. And now FAMU had to cough that money up. So you're right. The players saved FAMU's ass.
And you're not seeing the reciprocity coming back to FAMU players. I've had conversations with some FAMU players to where they're saying they're bunking up with other teammates. They're bunking up with females at the dorms. They're not allowed in the cabs sometimes because they don't have money for food and things like that unless the coaches are with them. And you know, a lot of people talk about, oh, you need to come back to HBCUs and do it for the culture, but you have kids that are currently on campus sacrificing their dignity, sacrificing their ability to play at other schools just to stay at FAMU and to deal with all these things going on. And you can't have a president that's not standing up for his players and his football players, letting them just lay with the wolves or just feeding for themselves. It's just ridiculous.
Y'all, look, I know Julian had to go. Call her back because I really need, she was the president of Bennett. I just need her just to weigh in as a former HBCU president. Makongo is there, Renita is there. Makongo, this is an abomination. That statement from President Robinson, that is not leadership.
Look, everybody knows you, Roland. You always say if you do good, I'm going to talk about you. If you do bad, I'm going to talk about you. Either way, I'm talking about you. And this is, I mean, goodness gracious. This is a lack of leadership once again, on every level. And schools are supposed to be places where they are creating leaders of the future. They are not only jeopardizing these men's athletic careers, they're jeopardizing their academic careers and their future professional careers. These brothers are going to have to spend time probably going back to summer school, taking extra classes, probably going to have to take more jobs. We don't know what's going on with any of their type of financial aid or loan or grant status as players. He is potentially destroying the lives of these men for years to come. And we already have issues enough with HBCUs as it relates to getting them the funding that they need and the respect that they need and that they fight for every single day with real leaders and real athletic directors and real presidents who are busting their behinds every day for our young people. And this is a failure at every juncture. And I'm so glad you played the letter of the students, because without that, so many people are just going to go by what President Robinson is saying and say, oh, well, these kids should be thankful just to get an education and they're working with them. No, he's destroying their future, and this is disgraceful. We talked about what BYU did on the other side with the racism and everything, but this is homegrown ineptitude that's coming from our own people that is destroying the lives of these brothers, and I commend them for standing up. And as you said, as off script, they could have cost FAMU $500,000 by not showing up, but they're still there, still showing the character, still showing the spirit, still showing up for the school, showing up for their family, showing up for their community, and they can't even get the proper housing and the meals. This is disgraceful. The athletic director should still be there, and this president has to go.
Hey, Scotty, here's the whole deal. People forget that the Grambling football team protested years ago to conditions on that particular campus. The Florida A&M band should say, ain't gonna be no halftime unless you fix what's happening with the football team. This is where you gotta have allies saying, no, business ain't gonna be business as usual. And this is where, and Florida A&M is also a state school. Where in the hell is the Florida Black Caucus? Where the legislator is saying, hey, what's happening here is wrong. This is utterly ridiculous. And for the players to be complaining about not having housing and no food, man, give me a damn break.
No, it's ridiculous, and you see it you're seeing it at just every level because this happened last year where a few players, not to this magnitude of 26 players, but you had very significant, prominent players that you were expecting to come into this OVC game that were supposed to be playing. They weren't playing. Why? Because of paperwork issues. And now you having one person in compliance who has to do all the compliance and all the push of the paperwork for all these athletes. But to me, they'll say, well, we're underfunded, under-resourced, but you still cashing checks. You still getting paid on the 1st and 15th. So you're okay to spend the money, but you're not doing the work that's required to get the check. So something has to give. You either have to come out and ask for help publicly and say, hey, FAMU is leaving me without the resources to do right by these kids, because you being in silence to me just says that you're adding to the problem. You're just hiding it and hoping you wouldn't get caught, but you got caught.
And Renee, here's the deal. These HBCU students ain't playing. We saw protests at Howard University over dorms. We saw it happening down there in Atlanta. We see it happening at Lincoln University. Tennessee State, not Lincoln University. Tennessee State over housing. These folks will go to social media and call your ass out. They ain't playing that whole game. Yo, don't criticize us because you'll make us look bad. No, you're making yourself look bad.
No, this is terrible. It's egregious, and it's also unbelievable. And the reason I say it's unbelievable is because we all know that HBCUs are struggling, usually struggling financially, but some of these problems are not even about money. That's what's so unbelievable. It's like they could just do better. And it's just such bad timing, too, when you've got now unprecedented attention towards HBCU athletics with everything that Deion Sanders has done. Like, this is the wrong time for all this. And so, like Amakambo was talking, he was saying that, they're really ruining their lives. I was thinking the same thing, because they could have gone to a white university and been treated this poor. Like, this is it's just unbelievable. And it's embarrassing. And as somebody who grew up in Florida, I just absolutely hate to see that this has happened to FAMU, because FAMU is a well-loved HBCU. It's important to the state. It's important to our culture. I mean, it's just unbelievable, and it's unacceptable.
Hey, Scott, I'm gonna give the final word, but I'm gonna say this here. President Robinson, you need to come on this show. You need to sit down. Don't just try to, he needs to do a live stream where he is addressing these issues, when he's addressing these football players, and what he should be saying, what that little weak-ass press release should have said is, I've told my administrators you got 72 hours to fix the problem. Not, oh, this is gonna be on my agenda at my weekly meeting. First of all, that's you saying, we're gonna let this thing continue for weeks on end. Nah, from the football players, ain't no game. Ain't no game. Ban, we ain't playing. Shut it down, send that kind of message to the administration.
That's a tough one, because you had top players who Isaiah Lands, the BJ Bowlers, that have NFL draft stock that were not allowed to play in the UNC game. And we know what happens when you do well against a FBS program. The Jacoby Durants, the Darius Leonards, you get looked at differently and you get picked up prospectively. But this is the thing. I have a good friend who's a FAMU. He's a legacy. His mom and dad both taught at FAMU. His name is Kofi Hemingway, and he said numerous of times that they need a town hall meeting. They need to have President Larry Robinson in the middle, and he addressed all the questions and concerns from fans, from alums, from sports to athletes, all of it, because you can't sit up in your room, you can't come down for the press releases and the pictures and not deal with the real issues that are going on at FAMU. And I hope somebody holds them accountable, and we'll see where it goes from there.
All right, so this is real simple. So y'all can spread the word. Florida A&M football team and students, I will bring Roland Martin Unfiltered down to Tallahassee and host that town hall. We will live stream that town hall. Not only to our platform, we'll send to the Florida A&M YouTube channel, their Facebook page, to the alumni page as well. So if y'all the football team, if y'all want to do that town hall, y'all give me a call. Email is roland@rolandsmartin.com. I will bring this show down, and we will actually do that and take every question. The president should stand there unless you show up. All you gotta do is call.
That's what's up. I'm gonna definitely clip that, and I'm gonna put it all over my YouTube. They definitely gonna make that happen.
And that's what happens when you own your shit. Simple as that. Scotty, y'all, subscribe to All the Scripts YouTube channel, please. Let's get those numbers up. Scotty, I appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
Can you believe the nerve of these Republicans? They only want to block progress for our community. They talk about cutting Medicare and Social Security. They played politics with veterans' health care. They voted against the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act and funding for our HBCUs, and against lowering prescription drug costs for our seniors. These Republicans keep trying hard to stand in the way, but President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Democrats won't let them. They are delivering for us. The Democratic National Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. All right, okay, come on. I don't know what. All right, folks, last night we told you about Florida A&M University, some issues that have been taking place with their football team. There were about 26 ineligible players who couldn't play in Saturday's game against the University of North Carolina. Well, the football players released a particular statement laying it out. And so the university then released a statement because the players talked about a fundamental problem they had with being cleared, the process they actually go through to actually to be eligible. And so the players had some damning allegations. The university responded with their own statement. This is what they actually published after the players' letter was released. They said, consistent with FAMU's long-standing commitment to maintaining a culture of compliance and performance with NCAA guidelines, we are justifiably proud of having achieved 13 of our 14 sports programs fully meeting the academic progress rate requirements per the NCAA's November 2021 APR report, in spite of rumors and misinformation to the contrary. Our compliance team, which includes partners from compliance, athletics, academic affairs, and student affairs, has been working diligently with athletics since fall of 2021 to implement plans for the remaining non-compliant program to meet the required APR score and join the others so that 100% compliance is achieved. Okay. All right. After the assessments of spring and summer 2022 academic progress, the compliance team exercised its diligence to complete the certification progress on August 11th before the fall sports season began. There are, as always, tight windows, and beginning on August 13th, waivers began to be submitted to NCAA based on feedback from our coaches. The NCAA subsequently issues its decisions on August 24th, 25th, and 26th, 2022. We are confident that our processes are effective effective and timely. We will continue to monitor our efforts in this regard and to pursue all avenues to provide an excellent student experience to every athlete. FAMU is committed to upholding high standards and high rigorous adherence to NCAA guidelines. That's interesting because the attorney for their star player, the top player in all of FCS, blasted them today. This tweet went out to the public today that laid out problems. This player, who's a star linebacker, he was suspended for 4 games by the NCAA. 4 games by the NCAA, y'all. And so if we can pull the tweet up, please. 4 games, y'all. Now, according to the lawyer says that he has information that the player was misadvised. This is what it says. Noted attorney Tom Mars tells ESPN he has signed documentation that FAMU star Isaiah Land, the best defensive player in the FCS last year, was advised to take the wrong number of courses this summer. That led to his ineligibility and eventual 4-game NCAA suspension. So here you got FAMU saying, oh no, our system is great and wonderful. We're doing everything good. Well, how in the hell is your star player suspended for 4 games? How? It's your star player. You would think out of all the people you want to have cleared, it's your star player. Now, after last night's report, now the Florida A&M band has been reaching out to me saying they're being treated worse than the football team. But they've said is they've had problems with members being cleared. I heard from several band members and folks who work with the band who say they have the issue every year. One person said that the upperclassmen have figured the system out, saying they have awful advisors and they are having to teach the freshmen and sophomores what classes to take in order to graduate. Huh? Really? Not only that, here you got the Marching 100, which is like the premier. Let's just be honest. The band is bigger than the football team, the basketball team, every other sports team. This is what they laid out to me. They said when they went to North Carolina, they took a 13-hour bus ride to North Carolina on Friday. Then they get there. They had 9 a.m. practice on Saturday morning. Then the band went. No, don't show that photo, please, yet, y'all. That's not the photo I want to see. Hold on. I'm gonna set this whole thing up, okay? Then they had a 9 a.m. practice, okay? Then they had some other events to attend to. Then they go to the game, perform at the game, perform after the game. Then they said, here they are, tired, sweaty, hungry. They don't go back to the hotel. They have to check out. They literally are changing clothes on the bus. No shower, nothing. Men and women having to change in front of each other. And then they said, when it came time to eat, this is what happened. They had ate at a rest stop, boxed lunches, cold food. Now show it, please. That's one of the photos they sent me. Not a hot meal, a cold meal, sitting at a rest stop. Really? Now, according to band members, remember, it was 10 years ago when the drum major, Robert Champion, was killed due to hazing. And a lot of things were put in place. I was told that the band used to spend 2 nights, Friday night, Saturday night, but after that, they put clamps on the band. That was a decade ago. If you're a 21-year-old kid in the band now, you were 11 years old when that happened. And so why are you putting your premier institution, your face of your institution, going through that? How in the world are you not giving them hot meals? How in the world are they having to perform multiple times, to recruit, do all those things, and then got to get back on a bus and travel 13 hours? This is what I was also told about folks there, that for the last couple of years, they've complained, and the president's made clear, y'all keep complaining, then we gonna shut you down. Not only that, I was told that some of the students had housing issues when they got back from North Carolina, that they were locked out of their dorms and they had to sleep in the band room. Apparently, Florida A&M has a housing issue with mold and some other issues. 200 to 300 students have had to live in hotel rooms as a result. I'm trying to understand, really? Is that how you're actually treating the individuals? Now, one of the things that's also interesting here is that I was told that President Robinson would not sit down with members of the band to address this issue or the Board of Trustees. This is one of the quotes. The football team gets treated better than the band. We have to do parades before the game. Sometimes they give us an apple and a sandwich. Everybody knows what is going on. This is crazy. This is another quote. Every year we lose a lot of band members. We've learned to work the system ourselves. Our advisors are incompetent. Our advisors are incompetent. Really? Now, this is what stood out to me. A person tells me, the best meal I've gotten since I've been in the band is a Chick-fil-A meal. That's the best meal that I've gotten. I was told the music building is in complete disrepair and the university has not done anything to fix it, mold issues and others. Folks, seriously, Florida A&M, what in the hell are you doing with your premier face of your institution? And I get resources in that, but ain't no way in hell the band should be eating a box meal. No, you have to figure out how to get it done. Now, 280 members of the band, 20 support staff. When they tell me that you have women who have monthly periods and they don't have any privacy, they can't even deal with their own issues, and they got to figure it out in terms of going to bathrooms and stuff. How in the world are you running a band like this? President Robinson and your administration, and we've invited them on the show, and they politely declined. We also called the Board of Trustees. They declined. We also called Congresswoman Frederica Wilson and Congressman Al Lawson's office as well. But I'm telling you right now, somebody at Florida A&M needs to step the hell up and answer to what is going on. Are you having these fundamental problems with your football team? Are you having the problems with your band? How in the world is the lawyer for this player saying he has documentation? He was simply given the wrong advice. What the hell kind of counselors do you have where you give your star player the wrong advice? How many people do you have handling, giving the advice to the players? One? I was told the band has one person who deals with them when it comes to their classes. One person dealing with 300 people on what classes to take? I'm thoroughly confused. Now, I've already got some people hitting me up saying, oh man, ain't our dirty laundry. Guess what? If your shit wasn't dirty, it wouldn't be aired. And so what I'm sick and tired of black people acting as if we can't demand more of HBCUs, of black churches, of black organizations, or we would say, oh man, we shouldn't talk about it. No, if you take care of your damn business, we would not be talking about you this way. We'll be talking about the good things that you're doing and what is happening. We have got to stop trying to gloss over bullshit by saying, oh, but look at the great things that we do. No, take care of this. There is no way in the world the Marching 100 should be eating box lunches. There's no way in the world you should be in the band and you're performing all damn day on Saturday and you're going here and here and here and go to the game, heavy uniforms, and you can't even take a shower. Who the hell wants to be funky as hell riding a damn bus for 13 hours? Are you serious? No. Florida A&M, you should be in a situation where they leave the band, they leave the game, go back to the hotel, and they're in a situation where they are able to rest, to shower, and to eat hot meals. That's how you take care of the folks who you're sending out raising money all around the country. Praising them in press releases don't mean a damn thing. Praising them on social media on how great of a job they're going to be doing in the game, that means nothing. It is how you're treating them when they are on the road. And I understand what took place. It was heinous. We covered it, the death of Robert Champion. But you today cannot be holding that over the head of the band today and not have the right systems in place. And here's what's also shameful with the player who did not get the right advice. Let me explain to y'all what's about to happen. Florida A&M. Ain't no black parent going to allow their star athlete to leave a major program to come to your school if you can't even give them the right guidance on what classes to take. This is a star linebacker who's trying to get to the NFL. Let me explain to y'all how this works. DeMario, he knows this. When you are Florida A&M and you play a major game against North Carolina, the scouts are measuring you based upon the competition at North Carolina. When he can't play in a game against North Carolina, y'all are hurting his future in the NFL. And so by doing this, you are hurting future stars transferring to Florida A&M and Jackson State and Bethune-Cookman and to Alabama State and the TSU and the Prairie View and the Grambling. Y'all, I don't want to hear shit about white folks. These are black administrators who are not doing their job. And this is what happens when you fire the AD who balanced your budget and you still haven't explained why you fired him. But we know where he's at. He's a number 2 at Tulane. Now, ain't that interesting? He's the number 2 at Tulane, but he got fired as AD at Florida A&M. Y'all have heard me say this again, and I'm going to keep saying it. I am sick and tired of black institutions talking about, oh, how we're surviving. We must be having thriving conversations. And see, oh, I heard all that bullshit. You went to the white school. Hey, it ain't my fault I went to Jack Yates High School and Texas Southern University was right across the street and they had a school of communications and I was a number 1 student in my high school in school of communications and they never recruited me. Prairie View, 50 miles down the road, never recruited me. So you damn right I followed the money at Texas A&M. But what we need to understand is I need folk to stop sitting here saying, send your kid to a HBCU. You got to handle your business if you want our kids to go. And so President Robinson, stop addressing the issue in press releases. Answer the question, is your band being treated this way? Is your band having to ride up on Friday and ride back on Saturday? In a 24-hour period or 36-hour period, they're spending 26 hours on a bus? Are they eating cold food? They can't take a shower? Is that literally how you are treating the Marching 100? Somebody needs to answer this. Somebody needs to confront, and don't say, oh, I'll put it to the top of my agenda. This is going to be a part of our weekly report. No. Leadership says we're getting this fixed in the next 72 hours. Because I'm telling you right now, y'all, I can guarantee you future stars will give second thoughts to coming to Florida A&M. Because if they say, y'all ain't taking care of the players now, why in the hell am I going to go? Why am I going to show up on the campus? This is what happens when you don't take care of your business and it goes public. And trust me, I know some of y'all gonna be sitting here, hitting me up. Oh man, you had to go that hard. I can tell y'all right now, I was in the band in high school. I can't stand cold ass food today. You think I'm going to sit here and march my ass around all damn day at multiple events, then play and march in the game, and all you got for me is a box lunch after the game? You done lost your damn mind. That's not how you are to treat your student body. Florida A&M, President Thompson, do better. Bring my panel in right now. DeMar, I want to start with you. You played at Oklahoma. I'm not even going to remotely compare Power 5, HBCUs. We know the money is totally different, but I'm sorry. Florida A&M, you can do better than a damn box lunch for your band. DeMario?
Things work with a band deal.
There you go.
You hear me?
There you go.
All right. Deal. I don't know how it works with a band. This is what I would say, because I don't know much about this outside of what you've stated. I think it's a problem just generally for HBCUs to, and Deion Sanders talked about this, when you take a team, you have to be on a bus for 13 hours somewhere. I don't think you should take those type of trips in 2022. You know, in 1975 or 1955, maybe. But in today's world, you should be playing in places that are either you can afford to fly there, or you play in a vicinity where it could be no more than an 8-hour bus driving, because that is taxing on anybody. I don't care who you are. And if it's facts that they had to spend 13 hours in a van, not get a shower, not have hot food, that is pretty egregious and atrocious, and something that should be rectified very, very quickly. Again, I don't know those facts, if that's 100% accurate, but if it is, that is something that needs to be rectified completely.
I talked to multiple sources that are with the Florida A&M band who told me direct. They took a 13-hour bus ride from Tallahassee to Chapel Hill on Friday, got there, had a 9 a.m. practice on Saturday morning with the UNC band, then had a couple of performances for the band, then went to the game, and then when the game was over, they had to then board the buses, undress on the bus out of their band uniforms into their other clothes, and then they took a 13-hour ride back home.
So what I was going to say, with all of those facts, I think Florida A&M, not only are they going to be reeling from what you stated tonight, but they may have some legal issues. So, you know, I like to talk about the legal issues. I mean, you might have some Title IX issues because you having these females have to be dressed in front of males and vice versa. You can have some negligent issues. People could get sick by that type of activity. And so I think they have a lot of things that they need to pull together their full leadership team, the executive team, sit down and get this issue rectified. Period, point blank. It should not be the same thing for next weekend wherever they go play. That's number one. Number two, I don't think any HBCU should be playing these games where you're going, you don't have the proper resources. You're going to go to a big Power 5 school. Your team is going to get embarrassed and slaughtered on the field. And then your support staff have to be on the buses for 12, 14, 16 hours. That sounds like a bad high school scenario back when I played, and I graduated high school in 1994. So I hope this gets rectified both from a political standpoint, a practical standpoint, and from a legal standpoint.
Look, the thing for me here, Mustafa, and again, it trips me out when people say, man, you should be bringing this stuff up. Well, don't screw it up. The reality is, this is what Ida B. Wells said, the way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them. That's the whole point. This is called light.
Yeah. You know, my daddy used to say, don't tell me you love me, show me you love me. You show me you love me by investing in me. So when we're talking about these student athletes, you know, and the band members, you know, are you willing to put the infrastructure and the systems in place to make sure that I stay in compliance and make sure that I have the classes that I need? Because I am your ambassador. I am the one that many community members engage with and see. So if you love me, then invest in me. You know, invest in also making sure that you see my humanity and that you're willing to make sure that I have the sustenance that's necessary for me to be able to operate on a high level. That's both if I'm an athlete or if I'm in the band. So it sounds like, you know, the FAMU has some significant work that they need to do in making the investments to show that they truly love both the band members and their athletes.
And look, this is the video right here. The band put up. This is the video on their channel, and you see this. These are the buses they're riding in, and I get it. You're riding those buses. Let me show you at the top of the video. And look, I get it. But the bottom line is this here, man. Look, you are taxing these students.
Right.
That's the thing that people need to understand. And see, we know. Those of us who've spoken on the campuses of HBCUs, we know how much time they put in. The folks told me in the band, they told me point blank that we have to recruit. We recruit when we go to these places. They send us, they say we might come into a city as a battle of the bands on Friday night. We get to the hotel at 1 o'clock in the morning. We got to be early to be dressed to get to the events. We might have 2 or 3 events in a particular day. Plus the game. And so this is the thing here. And here's a perfect example. This right here was a Pepsi ad. Where the band was in the ad. I dare ask the question: how much was FAMU paid for that ad? Was it fair market value? Okay, I saw the FAMU band in Louis Vuitton fashion show. I wonder how much that multi-billion-dollar company paid for them. This is what I'm saying. And y'all have heard me say this, and I'm gonna say this over and over again, and I'm gonna say it loud and clear. I have seen some awful negotiation deals from HBCUs. Why? Because they are people negotiating the deals who don't know a damn thing about negotiating, who know nothing about sports rights, who know nothing about media rights, and guess what? They getting screwed in these bad deals. And what I'm saying is, if this is supposed to be your premier institution, you take care of your premier institution. That's what you need to do. And so President Robinson, they've told me, they've said you won't meet with them. The president of FAMU, this is what they told me. I was told point blank today that the band building is in disrepair, that there's mold, it is dirty, it's dilapidated. The president of FAMU needs to go meet with the entire band. Not 1 or 2 students, not the drum majors, the entire band, and take their questions and listen to what they have to say. And he should do the exact same thing for the football team. That, Teresa, is leadership. And if you do that, then you don't have the football team dropping a public statement. You don't have football players hiring attorneys, and you don't have band members calling me saying, hey, Roland, can you please get this out? Because they've shut our voices down.
You're absolutely right. I mean, you can only get leadership when you see it. And so half the battle is, the president did not, and his staff did not communicate effectively with their students. The students are part of the backbone of, some of these programs. They're the backbone of some of this funding. And so, I don't want to say, some of these, I was a college student myself at a HBCU school, so we don't want to say we're getting pimped out, but half the battle is, we are being used in some way to further our college education. But that doesn't mean that we should have to go through some of the nuances. It's 2022, where they're not getting some of the basics. They're not feeling like they're wanted. Half the battle is these students are going to class full time. Some of them actually have jobs and they're on the field still promoting excellence. So if at the higher level, they're not giving us excellence in the executive and administrative role, then they actually need to rethink what recruitment actually looks like. And they also need to actually have a conversation with these students and say, more is coming and better, especially since there has been millions of dollars given to HBCU. This right here, this action is just unacceptable.
And let me say this right here, y'all. On no job, let me say this right here. On no job would you have band starting at 9 a.m. on a Saturday, doing 2 or 3 pregame events. They're performing in the band. They essentially working. Let me use that word properly. Working 12 and 14 hours on a Saturday. and then you got to get on the bus to go back home. Nah. So FAMU president, FAMU board of regents, FAMU alumni, what y'all gonna do? And yes, all of you Florida politicians in the state legislature, what y'all gonna do to properly fund Florida A&M properly? That's the question y'all need to answer. And let me be clear, I am not scared to do another segment. I'll do a Florida A&M segment every day until we get answers. That's a promise. And any other HBCU out there, you doing students wrong, guess what? I'm gonna hit you too. Because if I don't accept less than excellent on this show, do you actually think I'm going to accept it in other black institutions? Hell to the no. All right, folks, back to our Road Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland. Hey, Black, I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Can you believe the nerve of these Republicans? They only want to block progress for our community. They talk about cutting Medicare and Social Security. They played politics with veterans' health care. They voted against the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act and funding for our HBCUs, and against lowering prescription drug costs for our seniors. These Republicans keep trying hard to stand in the way, but President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Democrats won't let them. They are delivering for us. The Democratic National Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
In Texas, a black man is paralyzed from the chest down. Christopher Shaw's attorney says that a Beaumont police officer flipped him into the air and then body slammed him head first on a concrete floor. We are joined by Christopher Shaw's attorney, Chance Lynch. Mr. Lynch, how did Christopher end up in this situation?
Well, first, good evening to you, and thank you for having me on and taking an interest in this matter. It is extremely sad. Christopher Shaw is 41 years old, and last June, at that point when he was found in the road needing medical attention, the Beaumont police officer, James Gillen, arrived, and upon his arrival, arrested Mr. Shaw for public intoxication. Mr. Shaw was able to identify himself, speak and say who he was and where he was from, and he was still placed in arrest with his hands behind his back, handcuffed behind his back and placed into the patrol car. Once he was arrested, he was taken to Baptist Hospital, and there they completed a very brief evaluation to see if he was cleared to be able to be booked inside of the Jefferson County Jail. Subsequently, they cleared him. He arrived at the Jefferson County Jail, and once he was taken inside the bookend area by Officer Gillen, the surveillance video inside that bookend area showed where Mr. Shaw was placed against a half-glass wall with officer and deputies from the Jefferson County Jail on each side of him and in front of him, while the arresting officer, James Gillen, walked about. There was apparently exchange of words, and you can see on the video where the officer threw what he was holding to the side, and he snatched Mr. Shaw out of the care, custody, and control of those deputies. He placed him in, it appeared to be almost like a chokehold, and flipped him over in the air, causing him to land on his head. When we saw that video, we thought that Mr. Shaw had died. His body went limp, and he stayed there in that position. And we saw blood coming from his head due to a laceration with him hitting his head on that concrete floor. Officer Gillen also fell on top of him. So Mr. Shaw was about half his size, flipped over in the air again with his hands cuffed behind his back, unable to control the fall or to break the fall or even brace himself. And the officer fell on top of him, causing a laceration on his head. He stayed unconscious for a number of seconds or minutes. They called the ambulance. They took him back to Baptist Hospital, and the officer who assaulted him, or the officer who flipped him over, should I say, let me correct myself, the officer who flipped him over, that's the best terminology to use. He was the one who was his spokesperson for the medical provision that he needed and the medical treatment. He spoke on behalf of Mr. Shaw. After a very brief evaluation from the medical staff there, he was released to go back to Jefferson County Jail. When he arrived back at Jefferson County Jail, on the surveillance video, you will see that Mr. Shaw is accompanied by the arresting officer and an assisting officer. One of those officers is shown literally holding up Mr. Shaw's legs because Mr. Shaw was not able to control his extremities. He was holding up his legs so his legs would not drag the ground. Once he got inside the bookend area, you'll see that Mr. Shaw was sitting in a bizarre fashion, abnormal to any person who was sitting in a wheelchair, unable to lift his head and control his extremities even the more. In fact, staff from the Jefferson County Jail had to hold up his body so that they could change him out into prison and jail attire. He was placed into a cell where he subsequently ended up on the floor, and he repeatedly asked for medical attention while the staff in the jail and Core Health, one of the nurses looked at him and simply said, "I'm not going to help you until you help yourself." His breathing became labored and he almost died. Mr. Shaw states that his breathing became labored and he told the nurse on staff who refused to help him that he was going to die on her watch. Here's the thing. Mr. Shaw laid there on that floor, unable to move for more than 18 and 19 hours in his own feces and his own urine. And finally, the ambulance was called. He was taken to St. Christopher's Hospital where they did an evaluation and discovered that Mr. Shaw's spine had been severed in several places and he was paralyzed from the chest down. To date, he still cannot stand. He cannot walk. He's in need of consistent assistance. He cannot bathe and eat on his own. Mr. Shaw's life has been completely changed. A man who used to walk to work, who walked inside of the Jefferson County Jail, is now having to be wheeled around in a wheelchair.
The video that you referenced, has that been released?
It has not. We have asked for the release of that video. The sheriff, Zena Stevens, called in the Texas Rangers to investigate the behavior of that Beaumont police officer once she saw the video. The Texas Rangers completed their investigation, and our request was submitted to the Texas Attorney General's office. Their office has stated that the disclosure is not permissive because it would show the inside of that bookend area. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I have not looked at the sheriff's website, but I'm told by my co-counsel that the same bookend area that they are protecting, saying that it could possibly be a security risk, is the same bookend area that shows the pictures on the public website. So we are uncertain as to why they will not release this video. It does not show any particular exit that I would suggest that would cause a security threat to the jail or to the sheriff's office. However, they are still refusing to release this video to the public.
In one of the articles that I read, it said that officers say that Shaw was inside the booking area and he became aggressive, using physical force to push the officers, according to this probable cause affidavit, which led to him being body slammed. Can you explain more about the situation and how they can make that argument? He's handcuffed. Even if he were pushing other officers, he is still handcuffed. So kind of explain if they even have legal grounds to make that statement.
You know, I hate to use secular vernacular phrases, but make it make sense. You know, how does that make sense when he is arrested for public intoxication? There is an expectation that one, as a former assistant district attorney who has prosecuted these cases, and I served as a criminal defense attorney, there is a presumption that there will be aggressive behavior by one who is arrested for public intoxication. But the narrative does not change based off of just that affidavit. The facts remain the same. He was surrounded on each side, on his left side, his right side, and in front of him by deputy correctional officers of the Jefferson County Jail. This officer snatched him out of the care and control and custody of these deputies. This is what the surveillance video shows. What puzzles me is that I believe, and I'm not certain, and I want to make sure that I'm clear on this, that there was an affidavit by the arresting officer who flipped him, causing the breaking in his neck and his spine. But why didn't they show the video? Why didn't they show the video to this grand jury for them to be able to see it themselves instead of taking only the sworn testimony of this police officer whose police chief has publicly said, Jimmy Singletary, that he stands by his man, that he's sad that Mr. Shaw is paralyzed and he cannot walk and the quality of his life has changed, but he stands by his guy and he believes that he was doing his job. Now, I don't understand how that is not excessive, and that's why we filed a federal lawsuit, because we believe that it was excessive force indeed for him to take this man whose hands were cuffed behind his back, who posed no imminent threat, harm, or danger, still surrounded by 3 officers, not including the voluminous amount of staff that was still in that area. But he was directly surrounded by 3 jail officers, and yet this officer thought that it was okay to snatch him out of their care and control and custody and flip him in the air, breaking his neck. I can't make it make sense. I've only seen the video. And for the police chief to make that statement, that's why we're saying release the video. And we'll be able to get it with our subpoena power and the phase of discovery. But we still believe that the public should see what they did to Mr. Shaw.
And our producers have the website of this facility to kind of show this is the corrections facility being displayed on the screen right here. And this is one of the intake sections that you were referencing.
That is in fact the intake section that we saw. If you see where that counter is to the right, it has changed just maybe a tad bit. Maybe the counter has changed. But if I'm not mistaken, that is the exact wall to the left where you'll see that is half glass. It's a window that looks into like a holding area where Mr. Shaw's back was against the wall. That's what we saw on that surveillance video, that his back was against the wall and there were officers on each side of him and in front of him. And that's when the arresting officer, James Gillen, ripped him out of their care and control and flipped him over in the air, and he landed on that floor.
Let's get a full screen of that hallway that we just saw there. So according to the police department, in this hallway, they cannot release the footage because of security concerns, but you have a picture bright as day of the hallway. What is the difference between having a photo and the video of the same thing you posted on your website?
I could not have said it any better. That is the exact argument, and that is exactly how we view their position. To us, it just doesn't make sense, and I can't make it make sense when we are literally watching and seeing right now the same area where Mr. Shaw was, but yet they won't release the video because they say it's a possible security breach.
My last question, and then I'm going to take it over to the panel. How is he doing mentally and emotionally? I can't imagine how he's feeling or what he's thinking or going through, but can you tell us a little bit about what you've seen or some of the things that he may have told you about how he's feeling?
I'm fortunate to have practiced law at this point for almost 14, 15 years, and Mr. Shaw is one of the nicest gentlemen that you'll ever want to meet. His humility is impressive. He is strong. He is still encouraging. He still holds his head up, and he has a lot of difficult days. As you can imagine, being a young man at 40 years old and your mobility being stripped from you. His daughter was pregnant when it happened. She has since given born to his grandbaby. He cannot actively play with his grandchild because of his condition, but yet he remains hopeful. He remains hopeful that justice will be found in this case, that we will do everything that we can for him so that this does not happen to anyone else. And he is hopeful that and prayerful that the ultimate physician will heal his body, that God will heal his body, and at some point one day he prays that he'll be able to walk again, and we join him in that prayer, hoping that one day he will. The reality is he still cannot, and it's caused by the behavior and the misbehavior of an officer who took an oath to protect and serve, but yet caused this damage to his body.
Let's bring our panel in. Let's start off with Xavier. What are your thoughts? I'm getting goosebumps just hearing this. Xavier, what are your thoughts?
Attorney Lynch, thank you for showing up and letting us know what's going on with the case and standing up for the rights of those that have been treated unfairly by the system. My question is, has it been a medical determination as to the 18 to 19 hours that he was left injured and what the impact would have been at some point from his initial injury when he was flipped on his head like it was some WWE match? And then secondly, what is the long-term implications in terms of how soon he can get to walking? Will he ever walk again? The prognosis, any physical therapy, the amount of time and hours it will take and money it will take to be able to potentially bring him back whole again?
I appreciate that, and thank you for your question. I'm going to have to curtail my answer, and I want to answer your question, but I do want to curtail my response because we do have federal litigation that's pending. And as you know, once litigation begins, I have to be very limited on what I say going forward. I will say that he has undergone a number of operations there at St. Christopher's, and he has not had the financial stability or ability to be able to have ongoing treatment for his physical therapy. As a result of that and his inability to provide that and a lack of coverage to be able to provide the adequate medical attention, you can imagine the impact it has had on his body. The nerve damage, the loss of body mass and muscle mass that he has lost. I cannot speak at this moment based on the opinion of his physicians, but I do anticipate that that will become a part of our pleadings and the discovery as we go forward. I can tell you, based off of the information that we received from Jefferson County Jail, that he stayed in that cell for approximately 18 plus hours. And Mr. Shaw, his recollection is impeccable to be able to explain his request that he made to the core health professionals who failed and refused to give him that proper treatment. That I can say that once the ambulance was called after the 18 plus hours, we're told that the ambulance driver who came inside to load his body up on the gurney and take him out, once they did a brief evaluation, they stated that his body was extremely swollen. Now, I'm not a physician. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a Jewish doctor. So that is not, that's not my wheelhouse. But common sense is very clear, even though it's not always common, that when you have an injury to your spine, the quicker you get medical attention to alleviate the possibility of swelling, gives a possibility of a quicker recovery. Mr. Shaw was not given that. Though he asked for medical attention, they failed to do it. And wherein he could have received adequate medical attention, they chose not to call the ambulance to get him to the hospital based on his request. And he stayed there swelling and swelling until 18 plus hours later, they were called in and he was taken into surgery.
Kelly, what are your thoughts, or do you have any questions?
My thoughts are all over the place just because this is absolutely yet another tragedy. My heart goes out to him and his family, my prayers as well. But my question to you is, as a community, given that this man has lost his livelihood, what has been done and what can be done as outside of legal things and lawsuits and the like? But has there been a GoFundMe? Has there been any source of income that this man can rely on in order to have some semblance of a livelihood?
I appreciate that question, and I'm grateful for activists like Dr. William Barber with the Poor People's Campaign and Repairers of the Breach, the local NAACP, Reverend Jesse Jackson, the Rainbow Push Coalition, their leadership and their activism in this matter. They have taken an interest in Mr. Shaw's matter, and just last week held a joint press conference with our legal team to bring awareness to the Beaumont community so that they are aware of what happened and the status of Mr. Shaw. Those activists have also privately, in their own way, reached out to Mr. Shaw to be able to provide some type of support other than those in his immediate family. Mr. Shaw and our team are in discussions now of the possibility of establishing a GoFundMe to be able to meet his daily needs. He cannot work. And going forward, we anticipate that he will need a caretaker around the clock. One of the things that Mr. Shaw has stated is that even with his difficulty in eating, he needs assistance to be able to fix his food and to actually feed himself. And so we can project that his needs going forward, he's still a young man, that he's going to have a number of needs, and any financial support is going to be, completely appreciated and needed. Those in the community to join with the local NAACP. The local NAACP right now is led by Michael Cooper, a local pastor. Candace Matthews with the Rainbow Push Coalition, who governs that area for the Reverend Jesse Jackson. She's taken an interest in being able to help him as well. Dick Gregory and Voice for the People with Ricky Jason has taken an interest in Mr. Shaw. They've been helping him. I know that between Mr. Jason and Pastor Cooper, they've worked to get him a wheelchair, because the wheelchair that he had was just run down and insufficient. And again, the Poor People's Campaign and the Repairers of the Breach have started meeting weekly to have a weekly prayer meeting to bring awareness to that situation, so that the citizens in Beaumont will not just cause this to just be swept under the rug, but to really take an active role in holding that police chief, that police officer, and this police department accountable for what has happened to Mr. Shaw.
Michael, we haven't heard from you yet. What are your thoughts?
This is, once again, another crazy story. I had a question for Attorney Lynch. Thanks for coming on today. Has the Beaumont Police Department given any explanation of why Mr. Shaw laid in his cell for more than 18 hours, apparently bleeding, and he was in the cell to the point he has to go to the bathroom? They wouldn't let him go to the bathroom. He uses the bathroom on himself. Have they given any explanation of why he was in the cell that long and denied medical attention?
There has not been an explanation provided by the Jefferson County Jail. And I want to make sure that I'm clear. It was the Beaumont police officer, James Gillen, who flipped him over and caused him to have those injuries. But he was placed in the Jefferson County Jail.
Jefferson County Jail.
Of the elected sheriff. We have not received any correspondence from the sheriff's office to give us any explanation as to why he was there for 18 plus hours. As you know, we filed a federal lawsuit against Core Health, who was the medical provider that was contracted with the Jefferson County Jail to provide medical treatment to its inmates. That Core Health, that entity, had the nurses and the staff there who were required to attend to his needs, but yet refused to help Mr. Shaw and said, "I'm not going to help you until you help yourself." The sheriff and the sheriff's representative has not provided us an explanation as to why Mr. Shaw was left lying on that floor in his own feces and urine for 18 plus hours.
Wow. All right. Thank you.
Well, Attorney Lynch, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And again, my prayers go out to your client and his family as well. I'm hoping that he will get that recovery that he's hoping for, so he will be able to walk again. But please keep us up to date on how this progresses, because I know our viewers will love to know, what goes further after our interview with you. So thank you so much for joining us.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
There's an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol. We've seen shots.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Can you believe the nerve of these Republicans? They only want to block progress for our community. They talk about cutting Medicare and Social Security. They played politics with veterans' health care. They voted against the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act and funding for our HBCUs, and against lowering prescription drug costs for our seniors. These Republicans keep trying hard to stand in the way, but President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Democrats won't let them. They are delivering for us. The Democratic National Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
An Alabama pastor thought he was doing the right thing when one of his neighbors asked him to take care of their plants while they were out of town. Well, that neighborly task landed Pastor Michael Jennings in jail. Here's how it all went down.
Hey man, how's it going? Pretty good. What you doing here, man? Water flower. Are they saying that, is that your vehicle? No. It's not? It's the neighbor's vehicle. The neighbors?
314, I'll be on 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
You live here? No, I don't live here. Okay. They saying that this vehicle is not supposed to be here and you're not supposed to be here. Who's saying that? They called about it. I don't know who called. I'm supposed to be here. I'm Pastor Jennings. I live across the street. You're Pastor Jennings? Yes, I'm looking out for their house while they gone. Okay. Watering their flowers. Okay. Well, that's cool. Now, do you have like ID and all? Oh, no, man. I'm not gonna give you no ID. Why not? I ain't did nothing wrong. And Well, you look. Listen. I'm not saying do nothing wrong. Doc, listen, there's a suspicious person. Look, I used to be a police officer in Goodwater. Don't come here with that. Okay. Look, man, don't do this to me. No. There's a suspicious person in the yard, and if you're not one to identify yourself. I don't have to identify myself. It's not a stop and identify state. That guy know me. He came to my store that got broke in. I live right over there across the street. Who called y'all? That's what we got to figure out. But first, he don't live here. I'm not saying nothing about. You have no right to approach me if I ain't did nothing suspicious or nothing wrong. Told him I'm a pastor. I pastor until I don't hear. Sir. You want to lock me up? Lock me up.
Nobody wants to lock
me up. I'm not showing y'all anything. I'm going to continue to roll these flowers. I don't care who called y'all.
Lock me up and see what happens. I want you to.
Hey, man, just come here and talk to us.
I'm gonna go water these back flowers is what I'm finna do. All right, who called y'all?
Well, if you would let us talk to you, we can figure stuff out.
You know, you're gonna catch an obstruction charge if you keep walking away. You can do whatever you want. Do it. Do it.
We're just trying to talk to you, man. Come here.
313, 314, 5.
I'm 10-4. We got one that's not listening to us. Look, man, let me see your phone. Let me see your phone, dude. Just calm down, okay?
No.
Stop.
I like this.
Okay. We're just trying to talk to you and see.
I don't want to argue with you, okay?
All right, go ahead and do what you got to do, Doc. Do what you got to do. Go on and lock me up.
Look, just have a seat.
It's already
not locked up. You're
It's
just.
already a lawsuit,
Yes,
Doc.
sir. Yes, sir.
It's already a
Okay.
lawsuit.
Just have a seat, okay?
Okay, already a lawsuit.
Pastor Michael Jennings and one of his attorneys, Joy Travis, joins us from Alabama. I am so sorry that you had to experience this and go through this. I mean, you literally just showed up to do a neighborly favor. You were watering their flowers. I don't know how suspicious that can be, but someone thought it was suspicious and called the police. When you were watering the flowers and they first approached you, what was going through your mind?
Well, I kind of knew when he pulled up, he pulled around back instead of pulling in the front. I knew then that it was going to be something to it. He pulled around back, then walked around front as though he was going to sneak up on me or catch me doing something. And he began, the way that he started asking his questions, you know, you supposed to be here, what are you doing here? You know, I think that could have been handled another way, you know.
And what was going through your mind? Because you did state that you were in law enforcement earlier in life. So what was going through your mind? Were you anxious? Were you like,
No,
what were
I
you feeling?
kind of let him know that I knew the law and what he was doing was wrong. He was actually trespassing, and he wanted ID, and I wasn't going to give him no ID, which I didn't have ID on me. But I know once they get you in the system, you know, they'll put it down as burglary, suspicion of burglary or something like that, and you're in the system once they get that ID and call it in, whether you're guilty or not.
Now, one of the things I wanted to ask you, you said that you told officers you had a background in law enforcement and that you did not have to produce your identification because you had not committed a crime. So what did they tell you their reasoning was for arresting you? Was it because you wouldn't show them your ID?
Well, if you look at the video, you'll see that after they questioned me and they took me around back, that's when they arrested me. When I went around back, one of the officers came up. They was trying to talk to me. One of the officers came up yelling. And this part, you could probably don't hear it. He came up yelling, telling me, shut up, you talk too much. And once he said that, I said, you don't talk to me like that, boy. I'm a full-grown man. And you can hear Officer Smith saying 10-15, mean go ahead on and arrest. So I don't think it was just about the ID. I think it's also because they got angry because I talked back to them.
Goodness, yeah, because that's definitely a crime for sure. Let's go on ahead and bring our panelists in because I'm sure they have plenty of questions for you. Joining us today, we have Kelly Bethea, JD Communications strategist. We also have Michael Imhotep, the host of American History Network. And we also have Xavier Pope, the host of Suit Up News Owner and the Pope Law Firm. Thank you all for joining us. Let's go on ahead and have Imhotep chime in. Do you have any questions or thoughts on this entire ridiculous situation?
Hey, well, thanks for coming on, Pastor Jennings and attorney. I saw the story that Good Morning America did on this situation yesterday. So, number one, I'm glad that you're still alive. Number one, because in Alabama, this could have gone a different way with all white police officers.
Yes.
In the story that Good Morning America did, they stated that in the state of Alabama, out in public, the police have the right to ask for ID, but on private property, it appears based upon Alabama state law that does not apply. So is that what you were following when you said that you didn't have to give them ID because you were on private property?
Yes, and they was actually trespassing, and I knew they didn't have no right to get my ID at that time, and I already had identified myself. And if they wanted to know who I was, they could just walk across the street. They could have ran my tags or got my ID from my wife. When they asked the neighbor for her ID, the one that actually called the police on me. She said she would not give it. And then she wouldn't give them her last name. So they went and ran her tag to get her ID. Neither did they.
And just one quick follow-up, because they didn't show that portion here in this video. There was a white female neighbor who called the police. You knew the white female neighbor. She came over, and the police automatically took her word for what happened, but didn't take your word for what happened, okay? In the story from Good Morning America, they said that the police still arrested you even after the white neighbor exonerated you, and then a month later the charges were dropped. Can you or the attorney explain why did the police still arrest you after the neighbor came over and said, I'm the one that called, I know who he is, he lives across the street, she exonerated you? Can anybody explain that?
Mr. Doyle, I would like to explain.
I think that's where this is so egregious, because that is the point. He was exonerated. The young lady said that she made a mistake, that he is a neighbor, and confirmed. There was no probable cause of any type of that there was anyone that was any type of danger. And so this actually is where the irony comes in. This young lady, who is the person who called the police, actually told the police, I made a mistake. But even with that, they did not require her to give identification. They took her word for it. And even after she told the police, yes, this is someone that lives here or a neighbor, they still continue to arrest him. That is where the problem lies for us, because they got the confirmation that they needed that Reverend Jennings was not a threat, but yet they still decided to take him to jail and book him and charge him with these charges. Even after that communication, Reverend Jennings, Pastor Jennings' wife, brought his ID, and they still refused to release him or acknowledge that, he is who he was. And we see the first thing in the video, within the first 10 seconds, he says, I'm Pastor Jennings, I stay across the street. That's the question. Why did they continue to press forward with these charges when there was nothing being done and we're on private property? There's no issue here as far as anything that's a crime being committed.
All right, let's go to our next panelist, Xavier.
Pastor Jenkins, my heart goes out to you.
Jennings.
Minding your own business, doing something fine for a neighbor, and you have a neighbor that's not neighborly. Is there any reason why the woman that called the police on you all of a sudden did not recognize you? What was your relationship with her? Is there any reason what would prompt her to do what she did? And then kind of waffle back and forth whether you were quote unquote allowed to water the lawn of the neighbor. And then another question as to in terms of why would the police would even assume that if you are not in a vehicle, that you're across the street watering a lawn, that you would even have ID on your person in the first place?
To answer your first question, the neighbor said she looked through the fence and she just seen and heard somebody over there. She could have walked around the side and seen that it was me. But a matter of fact, we didn't have any bad relations. She had invited me to come over to celebrate her son's graduation. They were going to have a little thing, get together in the yard that same week. But she acknowledged that, hey, it's my fault. She didn't walk around and look to see if who I said I was. And the suspicion, I believe their suspicion was that when the officer walked up, that I was getting ready to commit a burglary. And the neighbor had told them that that vehicle didn't belong there. And I don't know how she didn't know that, because they drive that vehicle every day right in front of their house. And I think they were suspicious of me having a vehicle there, that I was committing a burglary. And that's why they kept asking me, if that's your vehicle, it don't belong here. And I didn't know my neighbor's last name. I just knew Mr. Roy and Miss Cunny. So I guess they thought that was suspicious, but.
I actually have a question for Attorney Travis. Now, it's stated that after this incident occurred that the charges were dropped. So legally, is that kind of an admittance of them doing something wrong? Is that their way of admitting, yeah, we messed up, so we're dropping this? Can you kind of explain a little bit about that?
Well, of course, that is our interpretation because how often is someone arrested and then just charges just dismissed and dropped? So it is our assumption that that is an action of them showing that they were wrong. But I think that they knew that this got way out of hand and shouldn't have gone that way. So we do believe that that is an admission of guilt. We have not had any statement or communication from the city or the police officers, the mayor, the chief of police. We have not heard anything from them as far as a response regarding that. So that is our assumption, and that's why we are moving forward with filing a federal lawsuit because Pastor Jennings' rights were violated.
Kelly, we haven't heard from you. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I'm glad that you are alive, Mr. Jennings, because that is a harrowing ordeal. When we hear stories like this, usually the pushback is the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. He should have just given the ID. He should have just done this, should have just done that. Why didn't he comply, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, you are a former law enforcement officer. You are a pastor. You are minding your business. And it doesn't matter how amenable you are to officers' instructions or not, it always feels like you're in a catch-22. Meanwhile, the person who made the phone call and made the mistake gets off scot-free. So my question to you is, how do you feel about the talks now of possible ramifications for people who make this mistake of calling before doing their due diligence and making sure that the person is supposed to be where they're supposed to be?
Well, I think people like that should investigate. And one thing, if people just mind their own business in a lot of situations, a lot of these things wouldn't arise. And for us complying, it doesn't matter if anybody know the history of Alabama and the greatest civil rights thing in Alabama. It doesn't matter if you do comply. NBC just did a report. 61% of blacks that comply are still disrespected. So it really don't matter if you comply. You can crawl, you can lay down, and you can end up like George Floyd. It don't matter if you comply. They feel like they're in control and they're going to do what they want to do. And I think because of the fact that I talked back, that made them more angry than anything. But they're supposed to be public servants, to serve and to protect.
Attorney Travis, is there anything moving forward? What's next?
Well, of course, we are preparing to draft and file in federal court because this is a blatant violation of our client's constitutional rights. We haven't heard anything back from the city at this point. We have not made communication with them or tried to make contact. But we are just preparing to move forward to try to get justice for Pastor Jennings because what happened should not have happened. There are a lot of things that could have been done differently. Things like training that could help in these situations that we continue to see day after day that are happening in not just Alabama. Training to police officers. There was a question about holding the neighbor accountable. I'm not sure what can be done as far as that, but there needs to be something done so that we can have people think a little bit harder about just making allegations about things that they don't know about. Pastor Jennings said it perfectly, to just people to keep in to themselves. But we are just preparing to amp things up to draft and file this complaint. We've got a lot of response from citizens across the country, that are just really upset with this. So there could potentially be some type of effort to show support for Pastor Jennings in public. And so we are looking towards what that may look like. But at this point, we are just trying to make sure Pastor Jennings is able to cope because every time this video is played, I'm sure it evokes some type of trauma from the experience of this that did not have to occur. So right now, we are just trying to make sure Pastor Jennings has the stability that he needs so that he can continue to be a resident in his community that helps others and make sure that this does not happen again in his community or anywhere else.
And Pastor, do you have any fear for your safety? Do you have any concerns that now that you're coming out with this story that you may face some backlash?
Well, not concerning the story coming out, but I had a lot of my friends who are Caucasians come and tell me just be careful because The city have killed 3 black men. They shot a 14-year-old in the back. They shot another one in the head. And they killed a guy at a gas station. They have killed 3 black men in this city over the past 30 years. So they was letting me know, just be careful, watch your back. They was concerned about me. And when my wife went to visit in Florida, when I was here alone, I started thinking, kind of a little bit of a paranoia. I started putting a chair behind my door. I armed myself because I know that anything can happen. So it makes you think. It gets you a little paranoid.
You know, and it's sad that these kind of cases seem to keep happening. We had a guest on yesterday who spoke about she was just cutting her lawn and she had to deal with some issues of racism. And it goes to show that it makes you question whether you should be nice and do nice things for people, because here it is, you're doing a good deed for someone, literally just watering someone's flowers, and this is the end result. And so it almost makes you feel like, you know, or at least myself, wonder, like, should we keep doing nice things for people because this is what happens, this is how you're rewarded. Again, I'm so sorry that you had to go through this, but I appreciate you joining us and sharing your story.
All right, folks, back to our Roadblock Unfiltered video in just one moment.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?